Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Today we'll be speaking to the President of Pakistan at the end of his crucial visit to the United States. I'll also be joined by the former President of South Africa, who made such a vital role together with Nelson Mandela in bringing the end to apartheid, F.W. de Klerk, and we'll be asking for his reflection on South Africa today, the outcome of the presidential election and so on. An update on the turmoil in Georgia is in store from none other than the country's Prime Minister. And we'll discuss conspiracy theories. Why are they so alluring? But first, Pakistan, where the fighting continues in the Swat Valley between the Taliban and the Pakistan Army. Close to 1 million people, they say now, have been displaced by the fighting in what is proving to be one of President Zardari's toughest challenges in the first year of his presidency. But he received support in the United States from President Obama and in the UK from Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and promises of extra help as well. I spoke to him in London in the only television interview he gave during his visit. We discussed many issues, as you'll see, but we started off by talking about his late wife, Benazir Bhutto, assassinated in Pakistan 18 months ago, whose picture he naturally takes with him wherever he travels. Mr. President, it's so good to see you again.
So good to see you.
And behind you, the flag and that beautiful, beautiful photograph of Benazir.
Yes.
Is that one of your favorites?
It is one of my favorites. Somebody you always supported, and thank you for your support all these years.
Well, not at all. I admired her, and she made the supreme sacrifice, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
She knew that, though.
She knew that, and she spoke about it all the time. You know that, and I know that she had this thought in the back of her mind that they will assassinate me. You
said there was always that sadness in her eyes on occasion, yes?
Yeah. I was just telling another gentleman that all her life, when I lived with her, I could not bring it up to me that please try and lay down your, you're supposed to bury your dead and forget about it. Because she didn't get a chance to bury her father. That pain she always carried. But then she converted that pain into strength. This is something I learned after I lost her. I didn't know there was a strength in pain. I had no idea that you could use the pain, the force of pain, and convert it into an energy to fight.
And you must miss her every day.
Every moment, every second.
I'm so glad we started there, because it's such an important part of your life and people's lives, and the lives of people of Pakistan too. Coming on to the sort of the business you have to deal with all the time. How long in this current crisis in the Valley of Swat, how long do you think it'll take you to expel or eliminate the Taliban from the Swat Valley? How long will it take?
Not very, very long, but it's a fight. It's a fight. They're well entrenched, and they're paid very well. They paid $60 a day to fight us. That's the wages that the Taliban pay their...
Where do they get the money from?
That's the million-dollar question. Yeah. And I keep asking the world and telling the world about it. Where are they getting the money from? Please, let's get behind where are they getting the money from.
And it's a real fight, as you say, and just in the last 24 hours, they've threatened the politicians in the Swat Valley, haven't they? They've said, either resign or within 3 days, or you will be attacked and possibly killed. I mean, that's...
the politicians, which are, all the Swat Valley politicians are basically PPP. We've won the Valley.
Your party?
Yeah, my party. So they've been under threat from the beginning. They're always under threat. The democracy is their worst enemy. So they've always wanted to, and they've always threatened us, and we've lived with that threat.
Who is the greater threat to you and to Pakistan, to the nation, between the Taliban and Al-Qaeda?
I think you can't differentiate the two. They're the same flip of the same coin. One is known as Al-Qaeda, one is known as Taliban. But their motivation is the same, the goal is the same, the end result is the same, and the methodology is the same.
And I mean, the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, is their dream, you talked about the fact of them having world plans, but is their aim, in fact, to go on, not that you'll let them, but I mean, to go on to Sindh and Punjab, to try and take the whole of Pakistan within their orbit?
David, they've got 18 to 20,000 madrasas in all of Pakistan. And we've arrested and the army has killed people who are not from that valley, who are not Pashtuns, who are fighting there. And it's always happened. Even when the British were there were these Indian fanatics who would come and fight the British there. So it's an age-old history that there's a threat in Karachi, there's a threat in Quetta, there's a threat in Peshawar, there's a threat in Lahore, there's a threat everywhere. It's just a question of, in the settled areas, they come and attack and leave. Here, they come because there is no settled police, there is no constant supervision of law. It's more like the ungoverned areas where we haven't originally had governance per se. But Swat did have. Swat, not enough. This war needs much more attention. We need 15,000, for instance, police soldiers settled in Swat to be able to keep it, hold the place after the battle is over.
And is there any danger that the insurgents, this whole group, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, could ever really threaten the country? I mean, people talk about it being a threat to Pakistan, but I mean, is it a serious threat?
It is a serious threat, and I don't think the world should take it lightly. It's a serious threat. I lost my wife to it, and we've lost thousands of soldiers to this threat. We've lost thousands of civilians to it. And then they've managed to have an influence on our way of life. And that is a threat, because they're conducting a war of the mind, a war of the physical sort. And the fact that they're forcing us to change our way of life is, as it is, a threat.
And in what you've been doing, do you think in retrospect that peace agreement in the Swat Valley and the traditional Islamic law of Sharia being allowed, in retrospect, was that a mistake, do you think? I
don't think I'll send you a copy of the law. It was never a Sharia law. That was what they were selling to their...
Oh, I see.
And see, Sufi Muhammad was selling it to his constituents as Sharia law, but that was not what we'd agreed to. It was not supposed to be Sharia law. It was supposed to be quick justice. And I think it was a good thing to do that. That gave political ownership, because although this region comes directly under the president's domain, but as a politician, I sent it to the parliament to get political ownership of this decision. And I took the parliament with me. So now the parliament is standing behind us when we go into this in this war, and the whole country is with us.
What about the situation that we read a lot about nuclear weapons, nuclear plants, nuclear missiles and so on, and are they in safe hands? And so
David, all the people in the world who need to know about such things are always in touch with each other. Yeah. You know, our command and control system has counter-command and control system dialogues with the world, and they know about each other. So it's something which is very sophisticated, very well looked after, and it's not for them to get hold of. It's not possible.
Well, I've talked to a number of people about this, and they say that in the short term, you know, that a rogue group like Taliban or someone like that could never, indeed the nuclear weapons in the short term are safe, you know, but they would only be dangerous if another regime took over in Pakistan altogether. But that would be in the medium or long term. In the short term, It's safe.
No, and democracy is what we've negotiated with the world and promised the world that is part of the answer, and is part of the answer to this issue, to this problem. And democracy is taking root, and democracy will deliver.
Democracy, you really think will deliver? Because
Yes.
so many people are gloomy about the prospects, aren't they? But
They
you
always
think
are.
it'll deliver?
They're always pessimists in life, as you know and I know. But you have to be an optimist, and you must remember, it's only, I'm not even 8 months old as the president. So it will deliver. Give us 5 years of peace, give us 5 years of the kind of support that we ask for. Because obviously it is our land, it is our country, we know the solution to the problems, and support us as we ask for the support, and you will see it deliver.
And in fact, you've said, as I read, in the United States, you've been saying to the United States that you, because it is your land and so on, that that you feel that the drones should be within your control, not the US
Exactly.
control. Yeah.
Exactly. It should be, why is it a secret? It's not the most secret weapon in the world. The whole world has it. The whole whoever needs them can make them. So why not give them to us to be a part of our police weapon? Not even our army weapon, part of a police weapon. So we can go and do the job ourselves and then take responsibility of what we do. It's like if the British police does something, it's considered a police act, and the people of Britain stand behind the police action. Instead of if you had, some other state come down to Britain and do police work for you, then the people of Britain may not stand behind that action. So that is the political position, that if it is our weapon, we will use it, and we will take responsibility for it.
Take responsibility for it in terms of what the next move is. Another quote this week you said is you think that Osama bin Laden may be dead.
Yeah, well, for 7 years they say they haven't heard of it, or of him, or from him. And we all know that he is a sick man. But the most important part is that,
He's a sick man, is he?
yes,
What's he sick with?
they say liver. So they've been there for 10 years now. They have all sorts of modern technology, weapons, etc. And they've been, today's era, Uncle Sam is sitting in the orbit. He's out of space. They have the satellite and home into anywhere, like you and me talking today. They can hear us talk. So if they haven't been able to find him in 10 years, then I don't see where he is.
Don't see where he is now. The Americans have made promises in your trip to Washington in terms of support and money and so on and so forth. What did they ask of you in return?
No, they just asked of me that I stand in the position I am standing, which I am originally standing, and they took a more understanding of me. Like, it's strange, David, you and me, we've never really talked. We've met many occasions. We've said, hello, how are you? But you don't know me. And that is the same issue in America, that they knew her. They didn't really know me. So I think it was a very fruitful interaction on the Hill and in the Senate and in the Congress and everywhere. Now they know me. They'd met me, but then obviously didn't know me properly. Right. So they wanted to be assured that they have somebody who is responsible enough and understands the situation. And I think that's credit goes to Richard Holbrooke, who is a great find. And I thank the Obama administration and especially Mrs. Clinton for the appointment of Holbrooke as a special envoy. He brings great strength to this situation, and may God give him the strength to keep working.
You think he can really have a good impact?
Oh, it's a sea change. It's a sea change. I ring him up and he's immediately into the White House, and he's immediately with the State Department, Secretary of State. In the old days, I had to go through the ambassador, and then, there are 5 steps to get to one person. In his case, it's just one window operation. So that brings a great strength to the situation.
When you read all these articles about, oh dear, and the opinion polls say this and all of that and so on, does that depress you on occasions?
No, David, I'm a politician. You take difficult decisions in the beginning of your tenure, and you allow the polls to go down so that you can deliver. Like the IMF is not the most wanted or most loved situation to go into. I went into it knowing fully well that, of course, it will have an effect on my popularity and the popularity of my party at the moment. But then in the long term, when the time is right for us to go for the polls, it will help. At the moment, the IMF has come up with a very positive report, which will not help my polls, but it will help me get strength from the people that we need strength for this, for the beginning of our term.
That's right, and polls take time, and in the middle term and so on. But I mean, in fact, I suppose that, do you regret that you procrastinated as long as you did over the question of the bringing back the judges? Because that's really what gave Nawaz Sharif his leap in the polls to 70%, wasn't it, really? I mean, in a way, you did it for him.
Well, it's always good to have two-party system, and sometimes it helps to have him as an opponent, but that's besides the point. The only time I could have appointed, or we could have appointed, the government could have appointed a judge was this time when the last judge finished his tenure. We couldn't have done it earlier.
Could you ever see forming again a sort of coalition with the Nawaz Sharif party again, as you did originally when you became president?
We are already.
Is it possible?
Nothing is impossible in politics, but we are already with him in the Punjab. Our government was restored, so we were part of the government, and we've decided to stay in government in the Punjab. So we are sharing government in the Punjab with him at the moment, and everything is possible in politics.
Would you say that Pakistan is at the moment is stable, unstable, or half and half?
I would say Pakistan is stable, but there are weaknesses in our systems where institutions have become weak. Because, David, I would like to appeal from your forum, in fact from your show, to the world to look at Pakistan, that we've been in a geostrategic position which could have been more advantageous to us commercially if we were not partners of the world in this war against the Soviets for the last 40 years. After all, only you and me remember that the U-2 took off from Peshawar. And the fact that that has been having an effect on our country, and the fact that heroin was evolved in Afghanistan for a purpose of maybe using it as a war weapon against the Soviets, but it's left behind a legacy which is a $5 billion heroin trade going on in Afghanistan, which is more than my army and my police budget. So you have to look at it in totality and understand that the weaknesses which I have today are because we've been partners in this war, and nobody's been able to make the world understand the effect it's had on my country.
A few weeks ago, I spoke to former President Musharraf, and he said at one point, as you may have read in the interview, he said that if there was anything that he could do in the future to help, he would be willing to contribute in some way to the future of Pakistan. Could you ever conceive of there being such a situation?
I think the people of Pakistan are the best judge of that. And if you think so, you should join and make a political party and come in the arena and see, because it's not the question of to be called upon to help because you're a technocrat or you're a bureaucrat or you're an intellect. All three he's obviously not. If he wants to, then he has to come in the political field and be elected, because it's the people's choice that makes you the representative and then gives you the right to serve.
Yeah. I guess he thought of being a consultant or something. I'm not sure. Tell me about something else that must give you cause and concern, obviously, in terms of the relationship with India. Do you think that there is a possibility that one day Pakistan and India could really be friends?
We've been. She was the first advocate of this. Her father was an advocate of this, and you know, she and Rajiv both signed a treaty together.
For Benazir,
yes, my Shahid Mahatma Benazir Bhutto signed an agreement of no first use on the nuclear sites. That was the first agreement signed after many years. When she was Prime Minister, Rajiv was kind enough to travel to Islamabad to meet us, and we were, the Gandhis and the Bhuttos and the People's Party and Congress have had a long history of friendship. And I've been trying to emulate the same for India. I look upon India as a commercial market of the future of Pakistan, and I look upon Pakistan as the catalyst which can be the force multiplier for the Indian economy. But it's a question of educating both our sides to get there.
You both have nuclear weapons. Is there ever a danger that India and Pakistan would use nuclear weapons on each other?
I don't think a nuclear weapon per se is an offensive weapon.
Isn't?
It's an offensive weapon. It's not an offensive weapon. It's a defensive weapon. It's more a deterrent than a weapon.
It's more of a deterrent. That's right. That's more of a deterrent, and therefore it is inconceivable, really, that India and Pakistan would destroy each other.
Exactly.
It wouldn't happen, would it?
As a crow flies, we are 40 miles from each other.
We mentioned Nawaz Sharif earlier on. Do you think, would you like to see him released from the restrictions that stop him entering Parliament and entering politics again? Do you think that would be a good thing for Pakistan?
I think it's part of our program. It's part of the Charter of Democracy that he and my late wife signed. And we wouldn't want any politician to be disqualified unnecessarily. But having said that, it's an agreement he made voluntarily. But it's a part of the courts today. It's in the court, and it's it's for the courts to decide, or if he brings it to the parliament to decide.
But you wouldn't be disappointed if he was
not at all
liberated?
If I was you, wouldn't I want him as my opponent?
Very well put. Very well put. You're under all sorts of pressure at the moment, but do you think you can serve your full term?
I think that the world today doesn't have an appetite for another dictator. So therefore, this democracy will flourish and go on and complete its term, and hopefully democracy is what has delivered in the world everywhere else, and it just needs the strength to be able to deliver.
Another quote, somebody said, most countries have an army. In Pakistan, the army has a country. I mean, because of the power of the army. Do you have any fears about the power of the army today, or do you think the army has made an epoch-making decision that no longer will it involve in politics?
I think the circumstances are such that everybody's come to realize that this war cannot be won without the political ownership. So the army knows that they have hurt themselves in the past by being allowed to be used politically, and they've come to a conscious decision of responsible decision of staying just the army. And to answer your first question, it is a very large institution. To say that it will not have a bearing on the thinking of Pakistan politics would be a wrong statement, because it is the fourth largest army and it is the regional, very large force, and one has to take its position and take it along to most decisions which concern them.
And people say, Mr. President, in terms of the future, that the greatest challenge for the leader of Pakistan is to bring a real unity, whether all their conflicting interests and competing factions and so on, and that somehow, with 180 million people, as you just said, somehow Pakistan needs a greater unity, and really the only person who can do that is the president. That's a hell of a task.
Yes, I would agree with that statement. It is definitely one of my responsibilities to bring the country together and united on these situations, and the Parliament and our Prime Minister on behalf of the PPP and on my behalf is doing the same. So we have that thought in mind and we agree with it.
And one human thing that is just fascinating to me, that you were not in politics actively, and then you were the president and so on. Did it take some getting used to? I mean, does politics take getting used to?
I think any job takes getting used to, and I'm still learning on the job.
You're still learning on the job.
Learning on the job.
Well, we thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
From today's real events to unreal stories about Princess Diana and President Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. More of that after the news headlines.